Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Gentleman's Hour. I am Joshua Fers, of course, and over to my right, which is that way, Mr. Tom Shoaff. Tom, how's it going, my friend?
What's happening? How's it going, everybody? I am doing well, Joshua. How are you, my friend?
It's going pretty good. Obviously, as everybody is aware by now, there was a killer BKFC card, Knucklemania 3, and which, by the way, I saw so many people send me a link during the stream. $4.99, you cheap sons of Jesus.
Well, hold on. They raised the prices, guys. They raised the prices.
Well, not yet though, right?
I don't know.
But fine,
Probably,
okay.
Hold on. Before we get into that, cheers, Josh.
Cheers, my friend.
All right. As we were. So, yeah, everybody who wants a link, it's called BKTV app. Just buy the app, dude. It's like fucking $5.
It's called Cheap.
I'll even do this for you. If you're super cheap, buy the app, spend the $5 for the fight card, and then just delete it. And then, like, in your subscription, then you don't have to pay for it anymore, you know? But it costs you $5 for the fight card. You know, like, it was a great card. We're gonna talk about it.
And for real, it'd be a great time to do it because there's like over the next month, there's like 4 events.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about those events as we get through this little 45-minute spiel we're gonna do here.
And by the way, we did our live fight cast, which I think for the most part, let something comes up here and there. We'll probably doing those regularly for the BKFC cards. You need to go back and watch, especially our reaction. And I know I posted the clip. A lot of people saw the clip, but go back and just watch our reaction through that whole main event with Richmond and Lorenzo.
Yeah, watch the whole fight.
Well, watch the whole thing, of course, because
it makes the final reaction that much better.
It does. It's almost like the climax, right? It's the climax of the whole night, and it just, that reaction summed up perfectly the entire night, the entire event. And by the way, I've mentioned this before. I will start having the Gentleman's Hour. This show for right now will be on YouTube exclusively. And I hope that doesn't bother some people. But the fight cast, however, will be dual streamed on YouTube and Facebook. So please like and follow, especially Facebook seems to be our main, I guess, as far as giving out information. That's our main kind of social media right now for that. Just follow that. Again, there's links to everything you'll need to access all of our content is going to be on there. So please go and check that out. Facebook, the Gentleman's Hour, again, YouTube. We also have an Instagram. We're kind of getting that up and running. So
trying to.
There you have it.
All right. Spiel done.
Spiel is done. Obligatory spiel is done. The Knucklemania 3 card. Not sure exactly where to start. I actually know. I do know where I want to start off with this, and I talked about this before. I just kind of want to cut right into the middle of it with Teresa Segala. Jesus Christ.
She is the toughest chick on the planet.
How can you argue anything else right now?
There's nothing else you can say about that, man. We've always known that Clarissa was super tough. Look at any of her fights. She always comes to fight. She's super tough. She's not afraid to take shots, and and she was definitely willing to give shots. And in this last fight, this Henshaw lady, she hit her with a right hand that froze her, and Clarissa broke her leg, put it back in place, and tried to stand back up. Like, toughest chick ever. Maybe toughest person ever. I'll be honest. I don't know if I could have done that.
Well, I was just gonna say, I'm gonna be perfectly honest, and this I'll take my ego right out of it. I'm probably I'm balling up. That's it. I'm done. If my foot just goes like that when I go down, I'm like, that's it. I'm not gonna try to stand up. I'm not going to manipulate it myself. It's not happening.
Yeah, that was so I saw a video clip from a BYB card. No, I'm sorry, a BKB card that happened 6 months ago. And this guy, I want to say it's about 175, 185. This guy took a right hand, and same thing happened, but his leg broke in the middle of his shin.
Like Anderson Silva style.
Yeah, but same foot landed the same way, and like anyway, just where it broke. Moral of the story is he didn't put it back in place and try to get up and keep fighting. He instantly grabbed his leg and started screaming. So again, might be the toughest person on the planet. Just gonna throw that out there. That's our class act of the week, ladies and gentlemen. Clarissa putting her leg back in place.
1000%. And here's what's crazy, right? And all props to Jamie Henshaw, right? She got the W, but nobody's remembering that part. And I'm just being honest. It's no offense to her. Nobody's remembering that. Everybody's remembering Teresa Segala just ramboing that shit.
Yeah.
And twisting the ankle, that foot, whatever broke back in place.
Dude,
which
I can still see it. I can still see it. I feel like I can still hear it snap, even though we didn't. But like when she turned her
what's even so, like, not only just her doing it, now I have no clue what was going through her brain. I haven't talked to her, but when she straightened that thing back up, it was like her face was almost like emotionless. It was just so matter of fact, where she's like, oh, foot is crooked. Hold on. Back. And like her face expression just never changed. I'm like, oh, just like that, huh? Like, just
I don't even know, man. I literally I try to put myself in other people's shoes and situations through my own personal experience. And the only thing that I can even come close to is when this guy, Tyler, hit me with a left hook and literally flattened my nose across my face. And, like, I straightened it out and threw a combination, and then he did it again. So I took a step back, straightened it out, threw another combination. He did it again.
Oh, my God.
So I finally just shot in on him. I was like, all right, I'm going to stop striking with you. But that was just my nose, and that was an MMA fight. You know, so I had options.
Right.
When your leg goes, like,
that's it.
Like, yeah, but she didn't think that. She thought, nope, I'm just gonna put this right back, just like I thought with my nose. I'm just gonna put this right back, and she tried to get back up and keep going. That is ruthless.
Yo, and for real, had her foot maybe cooperated just a little bit more, and she was at least able to stand on it, she would have.
Yeah, until it went the other way, and then that would have been the worst thing we'd seen in our whole lives.
And maybe it would have been one of those too tough for your own good kind of situations. But
yeah, oh, absolutely. And honestly, man, I think she might be. Like, some of the fights that she's had, she might be too tough for her own good.
I mean, yeah, you can go back to the first Knucklemania with her and Taylor Stalling.
Yeah, that was her
game. That was damn near fight of the year contender. Well, I mean, it was fight of the year contender.
I think it was. I think it might have gotten fight of the year.
It could have. It could have.
I have. So yeah, that was her debut, and she took all that damage. And then she's what, 4-1 now? So and I want to say the fight she had with that redheaded chick was pretty tough. And then didn't she fight Jessica Link too? And Jessica
no, Sagala's 1-3-1.
Oh wow. That's what I meant. I had my numbers backwards. My bad.
She fought Taylor Starling. She lost. Lost to Pro Gonzalez. She won against Jessica Link.
Pro Gonzalez.
Draw against Angela Danzig. She lost to Britain, and then the Jamie Henshaw fight.
All right. My memory. See, this is why somebody else runs Knucklepedia, and I've got nothing to do with it. Shout out to Knucklepedia, by the way.
Shout out to Knucklepedia. Those guys are great. I hear.
They're awesome. Stellar. All right, so Sagala Henshaw, that was something. But let's go right to the next fight. Greg Hardy versus, what's this guy's name? Watson. What's his first name? Can't even see it.
Josh, the biggest mother effer I've ever seen. Watson.
That's his name. That's a fair name for him. Yeah, because he's big. So Josh Watson put a hurting on Greg Hardy, and I don't want to be the guy that said I told you so. So I'm not going to use those words. But I have a feeling, or I have a vivid memory of me saying that man's chin is questionable, and we've known that for a long time. So why he would get into this, I'm not entirely sure. All of that said, his boxing looked pretty good. It looked pretty, he didn't look terrible. It looked pretty good. But then he ate some left eyes.
Yeah, and I would probably say, I'm not sure so this was the fight out of the 3 or 4 bigger featured fights. This was the fight that I was probably the most unsure about, because maybe there was a part of me that was like, well, Greg Hardy, he's been away for a little bit. Maybe and being that it's bare knuckle gives you more of an opportunity to hone in on, a smaller area of expertise versus, wrestling, jiu-jitsu. And so I'm like, maybe this will go better for him, because it will allow him to you can zone in on that. So, okay. He's a big guy. I'm sure he hits like a fucking Mack truck, right?
Right.
Maybe
I said, his boxing looks good. So maybe
he
did going in on it. Just maybe not enough. I don't know.
He definitely looked he didn't look terrible offensively, but like you said, the whole taking a punch thing.
Defensively, it only takes one.
Right.
Like everybody in this sport knows that. You can take one shot and it can just, we'll get right to the next fight.
Especially, I was going to say, especially the big boys,
Yeah, with the big boys, it's out of control, man. But we, like I said, taking it into the next fight, even the small guys, that can happen. With Dodson versus, what's this guy's last name? Grant, yeah.
Yeah, Jared Grant.
Jared Grant, we've all known that Jared Grant has a problem being pressured. But Dodson came in, and I want to say it was a left uppercut that just looked like it wasn't that hard, man. It was just fast and precise.
That was the one to the body, right? Was that the left uppercut to the body?
I thought I felt like it hit him right in his forehead, but
you might be right. You might be right.
I was drinking that night. I'm drinking tonight, so I won't I won't hold you
For,
too accountable to my words.
for some reason, I'm thinking that fight was a body shot, but I could be completely off.
I know he hit him in
And
the
shame
body.
on
It
me.
very well could have, man.
I
Like
should
I
have.
said, moral of the story is one shot. That's what it takes. You can get in there with a flurry. Johnson jumped on him with a flurry, and he got one clean shot that came through. Regardless of whether it hit him in his head or his body, it shut him down. Jared Grant had no response for it. It was well, I want to say it was humbling for him, but after his last fight, chances are he's already feeling pretty humbled. So,
Well,
hopefully, it was a learning lesson for him.
I think part of that same problem. It's part of the same problem is that, you know, he tried trying to box Reggie. He tried to box John Dotson, and it ain't happening.
Yeah, that's well. Reggie's too smart for that. Like, he knows that you want to box him in, and Reggie's aware that, like, if you play his game, there's a chance he could win.
Right.
Dodson's got far too much high level experience to play that game. Like, any footage he's watched, he's seen that, you know, Grant has an issue fighting on his back foot. He can't fight backing up. Right. And if you let him come forward and let him dictate the pace, it's going to be a rough night for you. So what did John do? Bounced around on the outside, exploded in with a bunch of punches, went back outside, hung out, did his thing. Like there's too much experience there between both of those guys. And I think that's, for as talented as Jared Grant is, that's his greatest flaw right now, is he just doesn't have the experience that a lot of these guys have. You give him a couple more fights, and he'll have that. He'll be where he needs to be able to get back in there with guys like Barnett and guys like Dotson and be able to handle himself. But he's too young and too inexperienced, man.
Well, I'll also throw this in there too, because I when some people, especially, you know, a lot of the onliners, that's probably not a word. A lot of the onliners that get on there and type, you know, he should have did this. He should have did this. He should have did this. And maybe like they put the focus on the guy who lost, like, oh, well, so-and-so was terrible. He lost. He was washed up. He was hyped up. He was a hype train. He was this, he was that. But really, can it just be John Dotson had a really good fucking night, and he's been training really hard. You know, he's taken this very seriously, you know, since he came into BKFC. Course. So, like,
of course,
you know, and yeah, like you said, Grant, maybe he still has that inexperience in the grand scheme of things. He's had a handful of fights, bare knuckle, but in the grand scheme of things, he's right. Still a inexperienced fighter as a whole. Right.
And that's really the long and the short of it. You know, like, you've got a very high level, high caliber fighter who has had a long and successful career. He's fought some of the best fighters in the world, not just in his weight class, but pound for pound. And, you know, Jared Grant's had, I don't know, 10 pro fights, like, at the most. I mean, I don't know his record. I'm not locked in on his background, but I can tell you for a fact he's not as big as John Dodson, because I knew who John Dodson was before the BKFC showed up.
For sure. And a lot of people forget John Dodson had 2 very close fights with Mighty Mouse. Like, you know, when Mighty Mouse was running through everybody in UFC. Like, he's the guy that had the 2 closest fights with him in his, you know, I mean, not that Mighty Mouse is doing bad. He's still doing great. But in his in the prime of his UFC career, shall we say,
right,
he hung right in there with him. So, you know, for the longest time, Mighty Mouse, a lot of people, you know, attributed Mighty Mouse to being one of the best pound for pound fighters in the world at one
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
I
Still, a lot of people still consider him that, man.
A lot of people still consider him that. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people still consider him that.
So again,
And
high level experience versus, high level amateur experience, high level pro experience, high level amateur experience. Two very different things, man. And again, this is nothing against Jared Grant's talent and abilities. He's a very talented kid. Just needs more fights. Get more fights in you. You learn how to fight. Like you'll actually learn how to fight, and then it all different kinds of avenues open up to you.
so at 2-0 with John Dotson, he called out Reggie, of course, the current 135-pound champion, and we all kind of saw that coming. I get it. Isn't enough, beating Jared Grant, who just had that fight with Reggie for the title. So is that enough? Is that enough to warrant the title shot against Reggie?
I think he's 2-0, and I think his most recent fight with 2 first-round finishes. His first fight was against a debuter, but a UFC veteran.
Yep.
His second fight was against a bare knuckle veteran, former interim champ, and he finished him in the first round. I think that's enough.
Like, how do you not do it?
I agree. I think the same could be said with with anybody of high caliber who comes in, from another sport, who does well consecutively. So go to a weight class that I know the most about, 155 pounds. Chad Mendez beat Fames in his debut. He comes in and he beats somebody in the top 5, or potentially somebody who has recently fought for, in the last 3 defenses fought for a title, and he wins. Yeah, there's no reason you couldn't deny that guy a title shot. Like Mendez at that point, like he won his debut with a finish. He he beat somebody in who's in the top 5. Yeah, he's got this level of experience, this name, this ability. You give him a title shot. Like, it makes sense, financially and in the fight game, as far as business is concerned and as far as the fight's concerned. But I think Palomino's busy.
Apparently he's Palomino's calling out his own challengers.
I think you probably said it best, Josh, that no champion, especially double champion, should ever be calling out an opponent.
Which by the way, like, and this doesn't come from a place of any kind of like disrespect, right? Like, I respect the shit out of Luis Palomino, but like, I would say this about any reigning champ. I just think it looks weak for the champion to call out the challenger.
It looks weak on multiple levels, man. It's not just your title position and where you stand and how you feel as confident, or where your confidence stands as the champion, but it also comes down to the company. Like, this guy just made his debut, regardless of where he's been before. He just made his debut, and now you're a 2-division champ coming into the cage or coming into the ring or wherever you're coming into,
right?
And calling this person out, that makes our company look, or the company you work for, look lesser than what this guy is capable of. When in reality, what you should have done was made that dude fucking chase you. That's what you should have done, because that's where the marketability is, and that's where the long game is run, or is won, so to speak. But yeah, that I thought that was a poor play on Palomino's part, wholeheartedly, man. And like I said, you said it best.
I will say this: maybe the only exception I could even think of And even now, it's probably less of an exception, but 4 or 5 years ago, the only, and I mean only thing I could really see a champion calling out somebody, and even still, I would still say it's weak, would be like, you know, Conor McGregor, something like that. And even still, like, only because with like that's a money fight. I know people say, well, yeah, with Palomino and Trout, it's a money fight. Whatever. I don't know about that.
Yeah,
But
well, so I mean, well, okay. Let's take those exact same parameters. Did Floyd Mayweather call out Conor McGregor, or did Conor McGregor call out Floyd Mayweather?
O'Connor called out Floyd for sure.
Precisely. Because when you're a multiple time champion, if somebody new comes to your shit, you shut the fuck up and let them chase you. That's it. That's it.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
That's it.
Yeah.
Like, bro. Oh. No, yeah, I mean, like I get that.
You're right.
I'm trying. No, I'm trying to put myself in Palomino's shoes. So, like, he's 42, 43.
Well,
He's
he
looking at
told
retirement.
us.
He won some good money fights. Like I get
Right.
it. It makes sense. He's ready to go. He's had 8 wins,
Right.
fucking 6 title defenses. Like, what the fuck else does he have to prove? He goes out and he beats this guy in his second bare knuckle fight, who's a 2-time world champion boxer. He solidifies his legacy. In his stance, it totally makes sense. Get this guy fresh and early before he has the time to figure out the game. I totally fucking get it. If I were in those shoes, that's how I would have played it, was make him chase me.
And I know we probably, I can't remember, maybe if we had this conversation before. I know I've had this conversation with somebody as of late. And again, this isn't a disrespect to anybody. This is just how I see the reality of it. A lot of boxing fans think bare knuckle is garbage. They think it's beneath them. Now I'm talking about your purest boxing fans. Okay. They don't like bare knuckle. Okay. There's quite a bit of crossover from more the MMA community. I would probably say, like, they're a lot more forgiving, a lot more entertained by the idea of bare knuckle. So there's that crossover from that side. But boxing, it's just not there. That it's beneath them. Okay, so
dude, to make this personal for a quick second,
sure.
As somebody who loves boxing, I fucking hate doing bare knuckle because I can't do any of the shit that I like to do in boxing in bare knuckle. It doesn't work. Like, it just doesn't work. So I completely agree, and I fully understand.
So
from a pure pugilism perspective,
right,
the BKFC is fucking tough.
to that point, I am somebody, I don't follow a lot of boxing. I am extremely casual when it comes to boxing. I watch all the big fights. Sure, I could tell you who Tyson Fury is. Sure, I could tell you who Deontay Wilder is. Sure, I can tell you who, Ryan Garcia, like all the big guys. Sure, I can tell you that. But outside of the big names, I don't know shit, right? I don't know who Austin Trout was, and maybe I'll get some hate for that, but I just don't watch. I don't watch boxing. So my worry is, the whole big money fight, Palomino and Trout and all that, but like, to who? Like, who? I don't.
I'm gonna bring up an argument that you had actually brought up a week or two previously, talking about exactly what you were talking about. You were saying that pure boxing fans aren't really into bare knuckle.
Yep.
And the Paulie Malignaggi thing obviously didn't pull a lot of guys over. I think Paulie was too far gone in the sport. Paulie was too much of a commentator at that point and not enough of a boxer. I think enough boxing fans not only know who Austin Trout is, but like Austin Trout, and Austin's still relevant enough in the sport to pull those fans over.
Well, even still,
That
like,
would be my argument to it.
well,
Now they may still watch it and say, this is dumb, this is stupid, you can't hold like that, you can't do like that, this isn't boxing, blah 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 blah. And you're absolutely fucking right. It's not boxing, it's bare knuckle fighting. And it might be dumb and stupid according to your rule set, but this is a completely different rule set. On top of that, you just paid the $7 to fucking buy the pay-per-view. That's what they want.
well, even still, okay. So fine. So like to that point too, even still with Paulie being a commentator mainly at that time, like I knew who Paulie Malignaggi was. Like Paulie was still way, way bigger of a name than Paulie Malignaggi on the commentator's booth is a bigger
But
name than
you're
Austin Trout.
you're also from the East Coast.
Yeah.
So that's a fairly household name on the East Coast, especially in a high boxing community like what you're in. So again, I fully understand what your point. Paulie Malignaggi is a bigger name than Austin Trout, but as you've already stated, from a casual fan's perspective, that's your interpretation. And from somebody who lives on the East Coast, I guarantee you're going to hear names like Arturo Gatti and Mickey Ward and Paulie Malignaggi
all the time.
Precisely.
Gotti and Ward
Trout's
all the time.
Mexico,
all the time.
Dude. Austin Trout's from New Mexico. You know, like that's I'm almost positive he's from the New Mexico area.
I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right.
Because I'm pretty sure that they're Austin and Sanchez are both, or Diego are both from the area. You know, so again, like I bet if you grew up in, you know, West Texas or, you know, Arizona, like you'd know the name. And considering they just broke into that market, why wouldn't they want to open that up more with more casual fans? There are levels to this game, homie.
I hear you. I hear you. I don't know. And again, that could be my ignorance to him.
Bro, we're both ignorant when it comes to a lot of stuff. But I think when it comes to fighting, you and I know a few things. And when it comes to this, I think you and I have it pegged, honestly and truly. I think the same way you look at Malignaggi is the same way people in the Southwest look at Trout. And they just broke into, I think they just broke into that. Dude, he's a 2-time world champ. We've got a dude. I'll tell you what, hold on. Let me pause you here and go back to the boxing community for a second.
All right.
We have a guy here in Lawton. His name's Grady Brewer. Okay. Grady Brewers, and please anybody Google this or whatever and tell me if I'm wrong. Or you might be able to do. I got a computer in front of me. I could probably do it now. Grady Brewer's greatest accomplishment was winning the Contender in 2006. All right. He's won a couple other like smaller titles, like US titles and stuff, but he's most well known for that.
Okay.
Everybody from Dallas to Tulsa in the same distance, east and west, knows who Grady Brewer is if they're in the boxing community.
Okay.
Like all of them.
Sure.
So my point is local fighters who've made it somewhere make names for themselves in their local area. So this guy being a 2-time world champ, they pull him back to the Southwest US. He's going to pull in names and faces that people are going to show up. People are going to buy.
I guess I just, yeah, I hear you. I mean, I'm sure you're, I mean, I know you're right on that stuff, but I mean, I know Trout fought, he fought Canelo and all that, right? Or,
well, I'll look him up.
Yeah, he fought Canelo in 2013.
Is he did he fight him? Was that the one that took place down in Texas that everybody said he got robbed?
Yeah, that's what it says. And again, I just want a full disclaimer before I get to like you people who are listening to this probably can't type their keyboard fast enough. They're probably so pissed off at me. They're like, this motherfucker.
Yeah, right. Well, he fought Charlo. He fought Hurd. He fought
again.
Cotto.
I'll state my ignorance on this. I do not know. I do not follow boxing. I am extremely ignorant to boxing. So I'm just, I guess, like I said, I'm talking from a extremely casual point of view that I had never heard of them.
Just I totally, yeah.
That's just my casualness speaking. I
totally get your perspective.
Right. So
totally get that.
And like I said, I could be completely on the wrong side of the fence here. I could be completely wrong. Maybe this fight sells out 20,000 seat arena. I don't know. I have no idea. Maybe I'm completely off.
I mean, Canelo Alvarez was his first loss. I'm looking at his record right now, and then he fought Erislandy Lara. That was his second loss of his next fight. Then he went on a 4-fight win streak. Lost to Charlo and Hurd. Then he lost to Charlo again. And then he went on another 5-fight win streak before turning it in. And that was in his last win was in 2022. So like he's still very relevant in the boxing world. He fought December 9th, 2022, and then turned right around in February, to fight bare knuckle. So still very prevalent in the boxing world.
All right. Well,
on to the next one.
Well, before we move on to this, so of course there is all the
the controversy.
Let's rewind it back a little bit. There's the controversy of course, like all the Vaseline and the grease and all that good stuff. And there's the question of is it legal? Is it not legal? Is it completely normal? Is it would it have made a difference? There's a few videos out there.
165.4 His world-class boxing record stands at 36 victories, opposite 5 defeats with 1 fight even. And tonight makes his BKFC debut. He is the...
He's starting to run from you, so feint on the way in, okay? Keep that speed underneath you. A little more weight on the back leg. And then you forward sometimes. Take a deep breath.
You just saw the videos.
Check those videos.
Through the wonderful world of post-production. You just saw those videos. When I first saw it, when it was introduced to me, it seemed, and I think I mentioned this to you, it seemed overdone. But, however, like I also said, maybe that was because I was looking into it a whole lot. Maybe it's just I happened to notice it more. I don't know. And I'm not accusing Austin Trout or his team of cheating. It was odd. It was very weird. And maybe even the oddest thing to me was in the one video, you clearly see like the guy like almost like very sneakily
put this on my hands.
Like put it in his hands, almost like he was trying to conceal it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So and somebody brought this point up to me. Why try to conceal something that's not illegal? Because it makes me think you're trying to do something weird or shady. If it's not shady to begin with, why look like it's shady? Like, why do you look like you're doing something?
Well, hold on. So I have to find the actual board here that I was looking for. But so according to the New Mexico State Athletic Commission, when it comes to bare knuckle specifically, there is absolutely nothing that prevents you from using Vaseline all over your body. And that doesn't mean that I'm saying, yeah, you can, that they say you can rub Vaseline all over your body. What I'm saying is that when it comes to Vaseline and grease, that's what we call Vaseline in the sports world for all of you guys who don't know what we're talking about. When it comes to Vaseline and grease, all right, there's really only 2 mentions of it in the entire breakdown of the rules and the regulations. And the first mention of it is when they talk about corners. And when they're talking about the corners, what they say is that they're not allowed to put Vaseline on the hand wraps or on the gauze. And the second part that they talk about is something along the lines of you're not allowed to, you can only have a certain types of Vaseline in your corner bag. Like you can't, it's like Vaseline specific or something like that. And you had brought up, Josh, previously when we were talking about this, that it says that you can't spill water excessively, things like that. I think water has to do with slipping. But moral of the story is, for those of you who are looking at these rules and regulations here, you can roll through all of these rules and regulations. Nowhere in there does it say anything about excess grease on fighters' ears, eyes, nose, face, neck, shoulders, back, anything like that. Doesn't say anything like that anywhere. I have not looked at the boxing commission yet, but what I do know for sure is that generally speaking in boxing, greasing it's dirty. It's a dirty tactic. And as we just established, these guys have spent their entire career in the boxing community, and they just fought in December. So if I had to make an assumption, the reason he made it look dirty, or look dirty, was because he was assuming that it was dirty, and he probably was trying to get it.
But the Vaseline guy is the regular BKFC guy. It wasn't one of his guys.
And all he did was put his hand out. Like, all he did was put his hand out, and that guy rubbed his hand, and then he rubbed his hands together, and Austin came over, and he whispered in his ear, and then Austin turned around, and then he rubbed his back and his shoulders. That was on that guy. But to talk about the BKFC guy, we fight in different states. Like, different states have different rules and regulations. We fight in different states. Different states have different rules and regulations. Different commissions running different things, which basically means that just because you work for the company who predominantly fights in Florida, let's be honest, a lot of fights happen in Florida, doesn't mean that they have the same rules, regulations, and commission standards in New Mexico or Arizona or Wyoming or wherever else they decide to go, Denver, or Colorado. Like, all the states are going to be different. All the commissions are going to be different. And that could be something that he just didn't know, or maybe he did know, and he was just like, yeah, here, go ahead, take it. And then the other guy made it weird. Moral of the story is it absolutely looked fucking weird, but it wasn't against the rules.
Just hearing that too, it makes me understand and appreciate more why the UFC fought so hard for like the unified rules, because I'm sure when they were, going from state to state, instead we're like, hey, we got to stop this shit. Like, let's come up with something that everybody can be happy with.
Mm-hmm.
and just have all these different states adopt it. I'm sure. I don't know how far away we are from something like that with bare knuckle. Maybe we're still quite a bit of ways away from that.
I think that it's going to take a certain amount of states that are actually regulating this or sanctioning this, because not a lot of states do it. There are only, we've got New York, North Carolina now, South Carolina, one of the Carolinas.
I think we're up to like 20 some states now. I think we're almost half.
Sure?
Yeah.
No way, Jose.
I think so.
Maybe, but
I think we're kind of up there.
Well, I know that for sure we've got Wyoming and Colorado and New Mexico and New Orleans, Mississippi, Alabama,
Florida, of course.
Florida, New York,
say South Carolina,
Virginia. That's 10. Mississippi.
All right, whatever.
Mississippi.
1/5, close enough.
Okay, so I think once it hits a certain amount of states, that would be my only assumption. It's like, okay, guys, like a good chunk of the country is or a fair amount of people are sanctioning this. We need to have some unified rules. We need to have a unified sanctioning body, so to speak. And I think we're getting there, man. I think that it's something that, how long did it take the UFC? How long did it take MMA before they had one standardized set of rules, dude? It was like 15 years.
Yeah, something like that.
So
and before we get off this fight too, I would also include that the reality is as well, while the weirdness happened with all the grease and Vaseline, and yeah, it's weird. Is it illegal? I don't know. Based on what we're looking at,
according to the Athletic Commission, it is.
Yeah, it's legal, right? So, based on what we're looking at, it's legal. Unless somebody can show me something otherwise. Do I think it looked a little weird? Yeah. Do I even think it looked a little shady? Yeah, I do. Was it something nefarious? I don't know about that. Maybe just, like you said, maybe it's just a matter of not realizing the rule set, which okay, fine. I guess we can kind of chalk that one up. Bottom line,
Mm-hmm.
had the grease changed, had I thought the grease changed the outcome of the fight, maybe it would even be a even different conversation. But the reality is it did not change. It would not have changed the outcome of the fight.
I think that's the best.
And if it did, we're talking like, if it would have changed anything at all, you're talking like a fraction of a fraction of a fraction. Because Diego was he's clearly outclassed in almost every way. And his only hope, and he even said it himself,
for a long time.
Right, for sure. But he even said it himself. His whole thing was he knew Trout was going to be the better boxer. He's going to have the range. He's going to have the speed. He said that the one main thing he was looking for was that clinch, because he knew Austin was not going to have little to none experience in that clinch game. He's like, that's my window. That's my ticket to beat him, because that's my game, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's my ballpark. So he really depended on that. And maybe in his brain, in a lot of people's brains, it's something I thought about too, seeing all that grease on Trout's neck. I can't grab you by the neck very well because you're overly greased up. That's Diego. That was Diego's really his only chance, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Again,
no, I agree. If the man had an advantage, the clinch would have been it. We know he likes to fight in the clinch. We know he's good at fighting in the clinch. Plus, he comes from an MMA background, and clinch is not available in boxing. If he had an advantage, that would have been it. And my most bureaucratic answer to that would have been, or would be, if you read the rules, you would have known that he can take that advantage away from you. There's really no other way that I can put it. Like, do I think it was shady? Maybe, but I can tell you right now, as an MMA coach, like, I will put grease on my hand and I will grease your face and I will grease your eyes and I'll grease your nose and your cheeks and then I'll rub my hands together and I'll grease your fucking ears and I'll grease your neck. Like, fuck that guillotine. like I will do everything in my power to make sure that you're going to slip out of a scenario if necessary. Like, that's my job as a coach, not necessarily to cheat, but to give you every advantage possible. And if they're going to allow me this advantage, I'm going to take this advantage. And I feel like that's what Austin Trout's team did. If they knew it was legal, regardless of whether or not they tried to hide it, if they knew it was legal, they were giving their fighter the best possible advantage they could have. Plain and simple. It's the only way you can look at it. Now, if it was against the rules, now it's cheating. Now you cheated, bro. It's different situation, different scenario.
And maybe that's it. Maybe like that's really, maybe it is that simple. It was legal, weird, yeah, shady, maybe, nefarious, probably not so much. It is just the way it was. He took advantage of the rule set that was put in front of him. When you look at it from that perspective, I get it, because when you're talking, and of course, you understand this, better than just about anybody, right? Is that when you get up to, that level, it's not even so much these huge skill gaps between people. It's these inches. Right. So like every little inch, if it's just a fucking inch, that's huge.
Yeah,
because
massive, man. You have to put yourself so outside, like, as fighters, as this being our profession, we're already like uncommon amongst common people. Well, then you put us in a community together, and now we're all the uncommon. So now we're all common again. So you got to do something that makes you uncommon amongst those uncommon people. And when you get to the highest level of sport, you have to break down every rule and advantage that you can to the best of your abilities. I will give you a great example that every fight fan can appreciate: weight cutting. Nobody throws a fit about weight cutting, but weight cutting is a huge situation. It's a huge, we'll call it, problem, legal cheating that people do all the time. People rip 20, 30, 40 pounds to make weight sometimes so that they're the bigger, stronger fighter.
Right.
Like, is that cheating, or is that in the rule set and totally allowed? Here's a great example. I got a book around here somewhere. It's by a guy named Sam Sheridan, and he's wrote a couple of these books. But in one of the books, he talks about he enters a karate tournament. He'd never competed in karate in his entire life, but his buddy bet him $100 that he couldn't win this tournament. So he enters the world's for karate, essentially. Like, it's the fucking gung-ho karate tournament. Before he does it, he reads the rules, and he finds out that weigh-ins are the day before, and he finds out that if you force your opponent off the mat 3 times, you win. So he cuts 25 pounds, weighs in the day before the tournament, and then enters the tournament the next day, and at the start of every match just runs at the guy and grabs him and pushes him off the mat. Does that 3 times, does that every match, and wins the karate worlds. But it's not karate. Nothing he did was karate.
Right.
He didn't do it like he pushed a guy a bunch of times.
Right.
But the point is he read the rules. And that's
and he took advantage of the rules.
When you're competing at the highest level, man, you have to know every aspect of the game. And that's if that's what they did, because we're clearly making the argument for them. That's what they did. They read the rules and they said, hey, it doesn't say shit in here about grease, but let's keep it sly. Let's keep it slick so nobody, throws a fit. Why not?
All right. Fair enough. And I guess that's pretty much a stamp on that. I don't really know.
You know what I know? I know we should move on to the next fight because that main event was outrageous.
That main event, while very short-lived, I think will live on for a very long time.
Yeah.
Of course, Lorenzo Hunt and Mike Richmond. Lorenzo Hunt defeated Mike Richmond 1 minute 50 seconds in round number 1. And again, you can go back to our live fight cast and see our live reactions. We're watching it. Mike Richmond is throwing some sniping shots to Lorenzo, knocks Lorenzo down. We're like, oh my God, Lorenzo's hurt. He was clearly hurt. and we thought that was it. We're like, he's not making it out of this round. Like, I know for a second, there was a split second. I'm like, Lorenzo might not make it out of this round. And if he does,
I can remember vividly freaking out during like the first minute and 40 seconds and then being like, all right, guys, like after Lorenzo got knocked down, me sitting back, putting my beer down and be like, all right, guys, I'm done freaking out. Put my beer down. And then I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. And just like it, and then Lorenzo got up and you want to talk about
cleanest right hook, just the cleanest right hook. And everybody says it was lucky and this, that, and the other. And look, like if you're in a fight in which you can only use your hands, every punch you throw is with the intent of landing. I guarantee it.
I was gonna say people say lucky shot, but it's like I guarantee you he's probably thrown that punch 20,000 times.
Watch any of the videos that BKFC posted of him because I don't follow him, but they post videos of him cracking that that hook pad just relentlessly, shifting angles, cracking hooks, shifting angles, cracking hooks. Like, yeah, he throws that shot all the time.
So I don't like it. To me, it seems a little facetious when people say, oh yeah, lucky shot. I mean, was it? I mean,
this fight and he threw a punch.
Or anything can happen at any time. Hey, I mean, Mike Richmond, as he in that moment, he probably thought, man, I've got this in the bag. And mind you, nobody would think less of him if that's what he thought. Because a lot of people, he had Lorenzo on the ropes. He's like, holy shit, this is my moment. I'm going to beat fucking Lorenzo. I'm going to be the fucking man. Right? Like you can see all this. Like this is all happening in real time. Like he thought, holy shit, like I am. Because at that moment, I don't think Richmond had he really taken any damage. Maybe like one or two, right? Like very little damage. So he's fresh. He's knocked Lorenzo Hunt down. He's clearly winning the round. This is his moment, and he did what basic 101, he let his guard down. And with somebody, right, like somebody like Lorenzo Hunt, I mean, anybody who is seasoned, you can't do that because they're going to take advantage of the situation.
Yeah, no, and that's exactly what happened. He dominated 140 seconds of that fight, got the knockdown. Lorenzo stood up, walked in, and in 2 seconds, it was over. It was wild to see how quickly and how swiftly not only did that fight change, but people's mentalities towards Lorenzo Hunt changed. And I'll use the Mike Richman and Isaac Doolittle fight as a reference. There weren't a lot of people who were on Richmond's side. Like, betting odds were on Richmond's side, but like the fans and like the fighters were like, nah, Richmond's a little kind of this, that, and the other. It's too easy for him. We want Doolittle to win. And then Doolittle put him through a battle, just fucking worked him for a round. And Richmond made it out. And we were like, fuck yeah. Like, fuck yeah. Finally, we've seen him been put through the fire and he made it out. And then he won. And it was like, holy shit. Like, good for you, man. We were all so ecstatic to see somebody be that close to being finished and then come back and win.
Right.
And then for him to be the yin to that yang in the very next fight, people took that same sort of appreciation towards Lorenzo. Because even though Lorenzo's been knocked out, people don't remember that. People don't know that. Well, they know it, but they might not remember it. They might not recollect or recall. What most people see or remember is Lorenzo just dominating people.
Right.
Just straight up dominance. And what we saw in this last fight was Lorenzo get pieced up. We saw a human Lorenzo Hunt, and then we saw him battle back from fucking hell to come back and get that victory. And there was a whole new appreciation for the human being that Lorenzo Hunt is after that last fight.
100. I can't. I mean, with Mike Richmond, I'll tell you my story with him was I knew who he was, obviously. I'd seen him fight before. I'm a huge Dakota Cochran fan, right? When he fought Dakota Cochran, and Dakota Cochran is also one of those just country strong motherfucker, like just you don't know where. Obviously like he trains but like there's something else. Like Dakota Cochran was he's just fucking just country strong and he's just a fucking animal, right? Like that Chris Lieben fight was nuts,
dude.
Like to go back and watch like that Chris Lieben fight was nuts. But so I had a ton of respect for I still do for Dakota Cochran. And when the Mike Richmond fight happened with Dakota, and I'm like, man, like if Richmond beats him, not to say that Richmond wasn't legit prior, but just, I'm like, man, if he beats Dakota, that's holy shit. Just, I guess for whatever it's worth from my perspective. And when he fucking put it on Dakota, I'm like, holy fuck.
Yeah.
Like, I know how tough Dakota is. I've seen him, fight in person several times. Like, I know how tough that motherfucker is.
Yeah. It blew my mind when he beat Dakota that fast.
Yeah. Like, he went through him.
Even that he beat him fast. It was the accuracy in which he beat him with. It was out of control. And like you said, somebody who's that high level and somebody who's that tough. You watch that Chris Lieben fight. That was 5 rounds that he went with Chris Lieben, who's spent his career at 185 and 205. And then you get a guy who's coming up from like 135, 145, deciding he's going to put on his big boy shoes and fight at like 180, 175, something like that. And you're thinking, man, I don't know. Like, that's a tall hill to climb. And then he goes in there and does it in less than a round. It's like, what the fuck? And then after that, he fought Dave Rickle,
Right.
you know? And then, and
Right.
same thing. It was like 2 or 3 rounds, just pinpoint, just put it on him. It's like, yo, like, holy crap. Like, yeah, Mike Brickman's the truth, man. There's no doubt about that.
100%. I don't know. I don't know what next fight. I don't know what fight is next for him at this point. If he, you know, and I know we talked about this too, going back down to 75, but we know there's not really anybody at 75. So it's a weird spot to be in. Does he stay at 185? I don't know. Does Lorenzo stay at 185? Because Lorenzo's calling out the heavyweight champ. He's saying, look, AJ or Belcher, whoever the fuck has the title.
Well, doesn't he have the 205 title too?
Yeah, he sure does.
Is there anybody at 205? You know who's at 205? Gustavo Trujillo.
I just don't. I don't think. I'm not saying Lorenzo doesn't want that fight. I think Lorenzo would fight him. From a, well, how about this? So I don't want to put anybody in a weird spot. I'm going to say what I would do from a business standpoint. I wouldn't do him and Gustavo yet. I wouldn't do it because I'm not saying he would lose to Gustavo. I'm not saying that, but I feel like it's an unnecessary risk because right now, what would be the payoff from a business standpoint, from a marketing standpoint? What would be the payoff of Lorenzo beating Gustavo?
Gustavo's the only guy to ever knock out Lorenzo.
Yeah, but you said it yourself. Not a lot of people remember it. So,
right, but
like I remember it, you remember it.
Promote it. That's because they don't promote it. If you bring this guy back after the run that Lorenzo's been on, like, let's think about the 205. Okay, let's think about a couple things. Let's think about continuity as far as keeping Lorenzo active. Okay, let's think about potential opponents, and let's think about money. All right. So first thing is continuity, keeping Lorenzo active. If he wants to move up to a heavyweight, he's got to fight the winner of Belcher and Adams, which fights this weekend. Okay.
Yep.
That means that neither one of them, depending on how much damage they take, which I assume damage will be taken in that fight, won't be ready to fight until May. Maybe even June.
Maybe like midsummer.
Right.
Early midsummer. Sure.
Precisely. Right. So we're looking at least May or June for that fight. Okay. Yep. Now, Lorenzo got rocked in this fight, but it didn't take a whole bunch of damage. So technically speaking, he could fight prior to that. All right. On top of that, the second point that I made was opponents. All right. Now, obviously, him moving up to heavyweight gives him a big opponent right away because he's a champion. But he hasn't done anything at 205 in a long time. So from a business perspective, it makes much more sense to see if he's capable at 205 still.
That was the Quentin Henry fight he had.
You call that a fight?
Hey.
Okay. Point proven and
it was still a title defense.
Point proven and point valid. Okay.
I agree. It was a weird fight with the whole ending, but
okay, then I'll tweak my point and say his last appearance at 205 was sketchy to say the least. So let's bring him back at 205,
which
because
not his fault, but it was just a weird fight. It's just
right.
The whole anyway. Yeah.
Right. Let's bring him back at 205. Okay. Now let's open up the 185-pound division because clearly his goal is to move up to heavyweight. Let's see if he can defend his 205 title. If he can, great. You can keep that and then move up to heavyweight and instantly fight for the title there. Or you lose that. Now you've got a choice to make. Do you go back to 85 or do you move up to heavyweight? Now you get multiple fights over multiple weight classes and everybody wins. So from a business perspective, it makes the most sense, in my opinion.
Can I just say?
You say whatever you want to say, man. This is America.
Can I just say, the idea of Lorenzo Hunt and Arnold Adams, that makes my little pee-pee go from 10 to midnight.
I will respond in the least homoerotic way that I can.
You feel the same way, don't you?
I'm right there with you, bro. There's nothing that I would love more than to watch AJ just beat the fuck out of Lorenzo. But that's because AJ's my boy. That being said, Lorenzo's so fast.
What a crazy mix of styles.
Yeah.
That is. Like, you know, styles makes fights, right? Styles make fights. But like, what a crazy, the fucking tactician heavy hitter that Arnold Adams is versus the, you know, cunning and quick and fucking hard hitter as well, Lorenzo Hunt. Like, it's such a, oh my God, man.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see if that power carries over.
And it's interesting because, like, Arnold Adams isn't like a huge heavyweight, right? So size wise, like, I think Arnold would probably still have the weight advantage,
100%.
but I don't think it wouldn't be as big as some might think because he isn't on the bigger end of the heavyweights.
And we also, so I want to say AJ, like an in shape AJ, 230.
230. That's what I was thinking about. 230.
You know, about 230.
Which for a 205 fight, I would probably argue Lorenzo probably fights it 215,
225.
Yeah.
Right. So like an eating well and fully loaded Lorenzo Hunt could very easily be 225, 230. I won't dispute that in any way, shape, or form. What I will say is that Lorenzo Hunt has a lot of speed and power at 185 because he pulls all that weight.
Mm-hmm.
AJ is a natural heavyweight.
Right.
Like him walking around, you know, being fat and enjoying himself is probably like 260, 265, right at the heavyweight limit. That's why I'm saying like him in shape somewhere between 230 and 240. So you get a lean, mean 240 pounds natural versus a lean, mean 215 pounds natural. That's a tough hill to climb, man. That extra weight in the hips, that extra weight in the shoulders. On both sides, it's like now you're not as fast. Now, you might hit harder, but somebody as fast as AJ is going to see that coming. And we're giving AJ the benefit of the doubt here. Let's say that Belcher comes in and takes this title. Belcher used to fight at 85. Now he's pretty, you know, stout Mexican supplement at 225, 230. So, like that.
That's very well supplemented.
That's another really tricky fight for Lorenzo at heavyweight. You know, again, this is a styles make fight situation, and I'm all for both fights. I think both of them are great, but I think a gradual process makes the most sense.
Knucklemania 4, Arnold Adams versus Lorenzo Hunt.
Yeah, I'm all down for that. Fuck. That'll be Arnold's next defense since they only have him fighting once a year. Speaking of BKFC 36, that's next week.
Mm-hmm.
The week after that, we've got 37, March 4th in London.
Mm-hmm.
Then we've got Delray Beach in Florida on the that's number 38, and that's on March 17th. And then Norfolk, Virginia.
Yep.
BKFC 39, and that's March 24th.
Yep.
So if you're looking for links, just download the app. $5 will last you all a month.
Or just send us the $5 and we'll tell you what happened.
Yeah, you can do that.
Just PayPal the gentleman's hour.
$7. And we'll make it. Well, hey man, I'm looking at this this card for New Orleans. This is a pretty good card. At least the top three. I don't know anybody else on the card, but I know the top three. That looks pretty good.
Oh yeah, Lily and Bobby Taylor. Yep.
Yeah, but Caleb Harris versus Brad Kelly.
That's going to be interesting.
That'll be a fun fight, man.
Yeah, that's an interesting fight
for sure. I see Bobby Taylor getting outboxed. That doesn't seem like an interesting fight to me.
Bobby Taylor is another one of those dudes who's like just fucking country strong too. Like it's just
And if you let him hit you, you're gonna fucking regret it. But James Lilly's boxing is so fucking good. For those of you who don't know, his last fight was against Tyler Goodjohn, and he had a horrendous weight cut for that fight, and then got sick and was sick all day leading up to that fight, and still went out and outboxed Tyler Goodjohn for 5 fucking rounds. James Lilly's boxing is so good, so crisp, and his power is there. He fucking knocked out what's that guy's name? Shit. Who did he knock out? Fuck.
What do you think it was about Tyler Goodjohn? I guess maybe that's just random, but there was all this hype about him. He comes over.
Mm-hmm.
Now granted, okay, well, his first fight was the felony. He fought felony. Yeah. That was his first fight, which was a weird fight. He won it, but
he lost that fight.
Well,
he got the decision. He got the judge's decision.
Well, I was gonna say a lot of people thought felony won that fight.
Right.
And then he fought. The next fight was him and Palomino, right?
Yep.
So, and granted, that's against Palomino. Palomino made him look like a mere mortal. But where was, I don't know. There was all this hype.
Well, what I think it was he was the big
fish in a small pond, right?
Well, yeah, he was the big guy out in Europe. He had a big undefeated record. And when you watch his fights with wraps, because that makes a big difference, guys. A lot of his BKB fights in Europe, they wore wraps. Like you're allowed to wrap your hands over your knuckles. It wasn't pure bare knuckle like we do. They do that now, but anyway, moral of the story is when he fought that, he could stand in the pocket and he would stand right in front of you. And in that small little ring that they have, he'd stand right in front of you. He'd trade, he'd slip, he'd move, he'd roll. And when you watch his highlight videos, he looked astounding. Not to mention he's got long hair, great beard, covered in tattoos. Like people, there was a lot of hype behind this guy. And when the BKFC was new, that's what they needed. They needed a lot of hype. So they brought him over, built him up, and then he had his fight with Palomino, and everybody realized, well, he's not as good as we thought. So then he did a bunch of training, tried to build him back up, and they're like, all right, well, you fight somebody from your home country, in your hometown. Actually, Lily's from Wales, but anyway, fight somebody from your home region, the UK card, we'll go from there. Well, he got pieced up again. So it just goes to show that he was probably one of those guys who was just the hype train, fighting people who weren't on his caliber, and he was just far more talented and athletic than they were, which kudos to him. But when it comes to competing with top dogs on the highest level, he just didn't have it. That's my stance.
Yeah,
but
it's
I think Lily's just gonna piece Taylor apart, man. Bobby Taylor's super tough, and he's strong as an ox, and he cracks people. But in my opinion, James Lilly is a far better boxer than Trey Martin, and Trey Martin pieced Bobby Taylor up. So that's how I think that fight's gonna go.
Let's see, I'm looking at the rest of the card here.
I really don't know anybody else on this card, man. Like Jenkins looks familiar. Angel Core, Bostic and Angel Core. I know Angel Core. Samus is that 19-year-old kid. So he's pretty young. So that'll be interesting. But like I said, man, I don't recognize anybody else on this card really. I thought this Mano guy was actually Brad Kelly. Like same headband.
Oh, so, yeah, I'm looking at him. You're right.
Oh hell. Anyway, so yeah, next week's card looks fun. I'll be there for that. That's on Friday. We're gonna do the damn thing.
Oh, you're gonna be there?
Well, no, not there, but I will be here. We'll be doing this.
You'll be here.
I'll be here.
Here.
For New Orleans.
Yeah.
Precisely.
That'll be fun. Yeah, that'll be a fun card. That'll be a fun time.
Indeed.
3 days, 20 minutes away. Man, I tell you, I like I said, I'm still reeling from Knucklemania, and it's funny. It that card almost, I dare say, not reinvigorated, but it was definitely a
glass of cold water.
Yeah, I guess it was definitely a glass of cold water to the sport of bare knuckle. Not to say that bare knuckle has been bland or boring by any means. Just for me personally, it was like a good adrenaline shot. And I guess maybe because, like, watching it so much, and you watch so much, MMA and boxing and bare knuckle, and sometimes you might get a little desensitized to some of those moments because you're so in it. Like, you just watch it so much. That, like, it was nice to really enjoy that, and feel that guttural, just natural, like, holy shit, kind of reaction. And like, it really, it brings you back to, you remember why, and maybe this sounds corny, I don't care, that it makes you realize why, man, this is why I like this shit. Like, this is fucking why I watched this shit. This is why I fell in love with combat sports. Like, this is why I fucking, and like that was, for me, that was just a nice little refresher for me from Knucklemania. So I like, yeah,
I don't think anybody could have put it better than that, man. It was 100% that. It was a great refresher as to why we are fans of this sport.
100%, man. If this is your first time watching the show, this is probably one of our more normal shows. We talk about anything and everything, and anything that interests us, we're going to talk about it. So please, if you've got to have a suggestion, if just anything, please send it our way. Put it in the comments. Comment on Facebook, comment on YouTube. We'll see it. We'll read it. We'll take it in. We'll let it marinate. We'll sit on it. Whatever.
Book, and we'll read about it.
Well, he will. He's not kidding. He reads like 3 books a day. He's going to read about it. So again, we appreciate you. That's really it. That's all I got. That's Tom Shoaff. I'm Joshua Fers, and you're watching the Gentleman's Hour.